Hello and welcome to this second session of Biz Tech Talk, hosted by Forbes Middle East in partnership with GBM. In this session, we focus on Kuwait, specifically on Kuwait's Bold Vision 2035 and the country's ambitious plan to turn itself into a financial and commercial hub here in the region. This bold vision is where Kuwaiti leaders are attempting to enforce more and encourage more cooperation between the public and private sectors. Of course, such a plan cannot be done without a swift move into digital services. This means better services, faster public services, and more digital products across sectors. Today's panelists bring together a long and very rich and diverse experience in both public and private sectors, whether in aviation, IT, telecoms, as well as business. Allow me to introduce and first welcome Fahd Al-Ali, who is the CTO at STC Kuwait, bringing with him, of course, years of experience in this industry. Welcome, Fahd. I also like to welcome Bilal Agha, Director B2B Marketing at Uridu Kuwait. Welcome, Bilal. Mr. Abdelmun'im Abdessalam is the Director Information Technology at Kuwait Airways. And Rashid Miziani, who is the Head of IT Support at Public Institute for Social Security. And last but not least, Wasim Suleiman, who is the General Manager at GBM Kuwait. Welcome to all of you. If you allow me, please, to start with Fahd, because the first question is maybe what comes to everybody's minds. Most of my friends in Kuwait are discussing it, are worried about it, and that's the issue of jobs. Of course, with the shift into Industry 4.0, many jobs, as you very well know, that previously existed are now being discussed as redundant or maybe unnecessary when it comes to this digital era. We are seeing ourselves, and Kuwait is attempting to make this move. So as the country goes through this digital phase, how or what role do you see companies should play in ensuring that they are equipped and ready for this digital era? First, to serve the young graduates, to serve Kuwaitis in relevant new jobs, and help those who have already maintained jobs not to become redundant.
In STC, how do we envision, first of all, our role being a mobile operator and digital service providers? Let me start by saying that we in STC, we envision providing services and products for our customers and enable digital in Kuwait, digital transformation in Kuwait. So what do we do first? As a main strategic pillar, we have end-to-end digital services and enablement as a key pillar in our strategy. So what do we do first? For ourselves, being a mobile operator, we follow a framework. This framework looks at 4 angles. One of them is the people, the culture, the structure, the process itself. I will be focusing on the process because we see it part of the digital enablement within organizations or within the private sector or any other organization. So what do we do? First of all, looking at our culture, we are embracing a digital culture, starting from the leadership team in the organization, cascading it to everybody in the organization. And why we want to do this? We want to do this because today we want to equip in the process side and in the daily operations that we do. We want to bring automation. An example of that is some applications, some digital platforms, including the robotics systems that we started implementing, which we believe it will bring efficiency and better performance and customer experience for our customers. Looking at the structure at the same time, we try to adapt to the maximum the best and simplest integration model among or cross-functionally, where we become more agile and we become very much customer-centric and focused. By doing so, we look also at our people. We try to hire the fresh Kuwaitis or graduates from the market, where we believe that they will be very much digitally, let's say, oriented. Looking at the academy that we have in our group, also
yes, exactly.
partner.
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to specifically make sure we stress on this point. If you can give us a better or more detailed example of how is the STC Academy, what is the academy doing to upskill the local workforce in Kuwait?
Yes, actually, we leverage on our group academy, which looks after different OPCOs in our group. This academy is partnering with well-known, reputable global schools in the globe, name it in the US or name it in Europe or wherever in the globe. We address and we try to focus as much as possible on the leadership development of our current and potential leaders of the organization. At the same time, we partner with global technology and digital vendors globally that will help us build the capabilities and enable our employees who are innovating, exploring, exploiting in the digital transformation space in general. How we see, and this will help the vision of the country today by enabling ourselves and enabling the market on digital. We believe that the companies will be equipped with digital platforms, automations that will help them to capitalize on their existing resources to do what they have to do to complete or to serve their customers or their users.
Allow me to just go into almost the same question, but a very different industry, which is aviation. With Abdul Mun'im, throughout the Middle East, your sector is been in the forefront now when it comes to the changes we are seeing, either in this time during COVID or in the digital challenges that this industry is seeing. Can you tell us more how Kuwait Airways is positioning itself as a front runner in creating a different, timely, maybe a relevant experience for customers during these challenging times, at a time when you also Kuwait Airways is working very hard to support the 2035 Kuwait vision?
First of all, as you all know, that the airline industry has been hit hard by the COVID-19, and there are a lot, whatever happens around the globe is impacting the airline business, regardless of what is the incidents. And dealing with clients, or let's say passengers, it is very much delicate area, because you have to think how you can please every single group, regardless of their nationality. Although we are being a national carrier, so we care about the Kuwait inbound and outbound, and we are trying to align our strategy with the overall country strategy to increase, let's say, the tourism cycle within Kuwait by offering many offers, or let's say services, to get the interest of the people to come to Kuwait and play that role. But unfortunately, then we cannot move alone by depending on our capabilities and our skill set. So we align ourselves with the local strategic partners, and along with the international and regional strategic partners, because it's an international business. It's not only localized. So whatever impact you receive, either positive or negative, is coming from a different within or from outside the country. So we are trying to increase the a human interface with our clients, along with providing digital services. So by doing so, because the region is different than the European region or the American region. So
can you quickly tell us a quick example of what sort of services you
yeah,
are talking about when you say digital?
yes. For example, when we have leveraged or developed our, let's say, application, we have seen the number of sales through the app have increased more than what expected in a short manner and terms. And as you know now, everybody, you don't need a smart fellow or a smart youngster to deal with smartphones. And everybody is depending on the quick off service, how much they can do it end to end, from booking, from approaching the client. For example, even if we get somebody getting into our app and trying to search or browse for a booking, even if they leave without even initiating or making their booking, we get back to them through an email saying,
Yeah.
okay, you were there still, can we help you? We have this offer and we have that offer. This is, by doing this, we are staying in touch with our client. And we have seen, especially in the local market, that we are eating up the market share, regardless of, and along with, as you all know, that Kuwait is being in the privatization. We are having a new fleet. We are introducing a new fleet, a new airplane, and we are trying to do everything to our clients. More than this, for example, our call center used not to be. It was used to be only one shift. Then we made it 2 shifts. Then we went to a 24/7. So you can reach us around the globe from wherever you are by calling, not only through the call, through WhatsApp and through the online, and the agent can do the booking end to end. Even they can send you a link to pay, even if for those who, I mean, using the technology, it differs from one person to another. But we have seen the huge increase in sales through the call center.
Yes,
And
certainly. That's certainly an achievement during these challenging times. You've basically tried to bring all of your services to the comfort of the customer's home or mobile device. I will get back to you on more details throughout the achievements of Kuwait Airways, because it's also been known to do a lot of collaborations, as you mentioned, with different industries and companies. But allow me to go quickly to Bilal, if you don't mind.
sure.
Bilal, I'd like to ask you, since Vision 2035 also focuses on establishing Kuwait as a strong financial hub, what role do you see the telecoms playing, and how are they supporting the financial services across the board, from small providers to large corporates? What trends have you witnessed?
Thank you, Jesse, for this very good question. In Ooredoo, we have started this journey in 2016 by building the blogs for the digital transformation, helping customers to start their journey themselves. And first thing we did is really we bought the first fixed ISP in Kuwait, the Fast Telco, to be able to provide mobile and fixed services, helping our customers to reach their branches and offices and move internationally. The second thing we started in 2017, we built our first B2B data center in Kuwait and also in Shuaiba, which is a good location for disaster recovery. All of these services came together to be able to offer the ability for our customers, especially the financial sector, to start moving into the digital world. So we started from building the communication infrastructure required, and then building the data center to provide the managed services and the cloud services to our customers, helping them to commoditize their IT and focus on their digital initiatives from a business perspective that will impact their customer experience. This is what we really helped and tried to help our customers to really focus on what really means to them, to their customers also, and offloading themselves from all these infrastructure commodity, where we as Ooredoo are the expert and we are running the biggest data center and networks and this is our bread and butter. So this
Yes.
gives them the ability to really focus on the strategy and move forward with this. And this is what we have been doing for the last 3 years, and we have been able to attract many investment companies and banks into our services. And while they're basically focusing on their business needs, we take care of all the technology requirements.
Great. Bilal, so as you've mentioned, again, making new services, faster services available for customers make you better and give you a better placement and positioning during this digital era. I'd like to take this question to Rashid, please, as a technology professional with over 20 years of experience in this field. You have seen different phases of tech services, and now coming to this digital era, we hear and we talk a lot about cloud technology, especially in government sectors and public sectors. What, in your opinion, is the best way for a government entity to adopt the transformation into a cloud strategy?
Thank you, Jessie. The transformation actually in governments is not new. Actually, it's a trend that is being done actually for a couple of years. And all around the world, governments, banking sector, all sectors actually are involved in this digital transformation and cloud adoption in the last couple of years. And it's not exception for the governments in the region as well, and organizations in general. Of course, like when you talk about digital transformation, cloud adoption, it has an aim. It's not there as a hype, but actually it's coming to mainly for efficiency, operational excellence, and customer experience mainly. And of course, with that, you need to follow a methodological approach in order to achieve that. You don't want just to do this digital transformation or cloud adoption for the sake of doing that and following the others. Actually, you need a really rigorous approach where you need to question three main questions. Understand why, analyze what, and visualize how. So you have why, what, and how. In first step, why, you need to question what are the problems that you're facing, the organization is facing, and what are the opportunities that you can solve, like bring in new services, transform a new way of doing processes, and so on. And once you understand the problems within your organization, you need to move on and derive objectives. What are the objectives that can fulfill actually and can solve those problems and challenges? So you have clear objectives now to move on. So once you understand clearly the why, you would like to move on and say, what can I do in order to achieve those objectives? Actually, the first thing you need to look in the capabilities. Each government or each entity, each organization is different. So they need to see their capabilities and what are the things that they need to bring up in order to achieve those objectives. Once this aspect is clear, they need to list all the actions that need to be done in order to fulfill those capabilities. So now we need to move on. Now we understand why we're doing this. We understand what we have to do in order to move on. And now we need to visualize the how.
The toughest part.
The toughest part, yes. The toughest part, of course, it depends on the possibilities of each organization. And of course, these derives initiatives. Actually, all those actions that you listed, it could be dozens for one organization, it could be hundreds for another, and so on. And you need to put them into bucket that you call initiatives. Those buckets, actually, they're projects that you need to achieve. Once you identify the top projects that you need to achieve in your journey for digital transformation, you need to go and do a roadmap. Road mapping usually starts with the project that will give a better value, a much added value. Actually, because at the end, all these transformation, digital transformation, cloud adoption, and so on, brings to one value is the business value. What business value you're giving to your organization. And once you do that, you achieve the journey itself, and you can go around. Actually, you can do in iteration and go into that journey, because the journey is not weeks or months. Actually, it's a journey, sometimes years to happen.
Okay, thank you, Rashid. If you allow me to pick up on what you mentioned, which is this business value, adding value to your business is basically the best and fastest way to figure out how to stay relevant during this time. I'm going to take this question to Wasim, if you don't mind. Nobody's arguing against the value of digital transformation for any business, for any sector. My question to you would be, how should technology be incorporated in the process to help any organization achieve this greater value that Rashid just mentioned?
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, again, digital transformation, as you know, we've heard each participant here basically is a journey. It requires technology and a visionary leader. That's very important. And basically, and transformation happened from our perspective as a technology provider. It happens in three categories, three areas mainly. One, basically what we call customer experience. The second one is the operational processes of the organization. And the third one is the business model, that will achieve the value required from that transformation. So if we take basically the technology, what we have from cloud to social media, to mobility, to artificial intelligence, to big data, all these technology tools, I would consider it, needs to be used to achieve, the transformations in those three main areas that I just mentioned about them. With the customer experience, for example, you can see in most of the industry, whether it is in aviation or in government or in the telco side, most of the customers are using those social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. And today, most of the organizations are targeting their customer. They understand their customers' behavior, and therefore, how do they need to know, their behavior through technology, through what we call AI and the data that is being gathered, analyzed, and therefore they can, understand the customer behaviors, and therefore they can change, the customer experience when they want, to provide them with a specific
understand and predict. They're now predicting behavior.
Indeed. And that's why, again, I said it's very important. Those technology is being used, and also you have to have a visionary leader where he basically identified the starting point, and the journey is very challenging. Where do you want to start? Like what Rashid was just mentioning a while ago, we need to, why you want to have this transformation, and how basically you are going to do it, and and define the objective for doing it. Again, most organizations, we see them, basically going through the transformation journey to achieve mainly what we call digital mastery. They achieve two objectives. One is basically what we call, increase their profit. And the second one basically is, increase their revenue and increase their profit. So if they are capable to achieve those two, increasing their revenue and increasing their revenue, then they are basically, they are in the digital mastery. I'll call it digital mastery. It's a journey, and it requires a lot of technology, utilizing of these technology, whether it is in the infrastructure side, whether it is robotic process automation, whether it is in the artificial intelligence, in the IoT. And we have a lot of examples that have been, we have successfully, worked out and with our customers, and some of them, are with us on this, event. And again, it's in the different area, three areas that I mentioned is very important, customer experience, operational processes, and mainly the business model.
Okay, if I take that to STC, to Fahad, you're again, telecoms, you've moved way beyond, as we heard from Wasim, just providing broadband or internet connection services. Tell us a little bit more about the more high-level services that are being offered by STC for corporations that basically complement their needs, their goals, and their initial offerings to create a complete suite of services.
Yeah, fully aligned with what Wasim mentioned. We in STC nowadays, of course, the infrastructure or the connectivity, let's start with connectivity, is a building block, of course, to connect two people together or two companies together or two businesses together locally or globally. So today, on top of the connectivity, which we have the fixed, let's say, part, which is provided by our acquisition of an ISP, and with the mobility part, which is the 5G, which we made sure that we build it nationwide, covering almost border to border in Kuwait, complemented also by the 4G mobility, not to forget 4G. What we are building today and what we are providing today actually is the data center, where you need a space as an organization, any company, not only us. Any company will need a space to host their equipment. We provide the infrastructure, name it cloud or local or global. You will need the applications. You will need all the utilities behind that will serve the infrastructure. We help the customers also in the data analytics, artificial intelligence, and robotic automations. We help them to focus on their core business, to focus on their revenue to be generated, and leave the rest for us to take care of it as a managed services in total. I will take what also, and will touch on Abdul Mun'im's point as Kuwait Airways. Today, Kuwait Airways will definitely into the digital, and how we can help. For example, we can help by providing them with robotic automation solutions, where you have a huge fleet of airplanes. You need to take care of their the meals. You will need to take care of the reconciliations that happen on these. So here we can help, and we can position our services and the products and solutions that will help a partner to
improve their services and basically be well positioned in digital transformation.
True, and I will take also the case of education today.
Yes.
Ministry of Education today just started on Sunday in Kuwait, started the e-learning, which I believe it was a very brave and very amazing experience to go through. We have all the teachers now sitting remotely, teaching the students over the application. All of that is supported by a huge infrastructure that we invested as STC in. And for God, we thank God, and it was a great opportunity to listen to the students and to listen to the officials in the ministry to give us a very positive feedback that the e-learning experience is successful today in Kuwait.
Of course, we have a different, maybe there's a bigger challenge facing parents who are going through that, but definitely, as you said, switching into e-learning has been a challenge that most countries are undergoing and undertaking with different steps and results. I'd like to, as you mentioned, Kuwait Airways, go back to as well the aviation with Abdul Mun'im, specifically focusing on big data. Abdul Mun'im, how has big data helped Kuwait Airlines to basically gather new routes or opportunities? And most importantly, as we mentioned with Wasim, how has big data helped you predict revenues from these new routes or opportunities?
I will just mention something. Being IT, if IT is positioned in any organization under CFO, we are considered as a cost center. So there will be minimal, let's say, budget provided. And if we are considered under, let's say, a business line of business, such as under the CEOs or another chief, we are considered as facilitator. Okay, so we usually don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, we don't go from the scratch. We learn from others' experience, whatever they have reached or explored, and we capitalize on this, and we reach out to the the top in locally or in the region to see their proposal and put this onto Kuwait Airways scenarios. For example, big data. Okay, you have the data. I know that data is gold and the information is gold, but without an analytical tool where you analyze the data you are receiving, how accurate, not only how correct it is, how accurate it is, how beneficial it is to every line of business within Kuwait Airways, because the same data or the same number is looked at financial people differently than looked at commercial people. But okay, so everyone has his own thoughts and look at it. Okay, so with the analytical tool that we are using, with the help of the data warehouse we are using, with, I would just say, through our partner for the long time, GBM IBM, we have reached a very nice level where our users or stakeholders can predict what if scenarios, if we change an airplane from this type to this type, if we, for example, if we minimize the fuel, what could happen, if we have control over fuel. As you know, fuel is eating up mostly about 40% of the budget, the operational budget, and then we open new areas and potentials for our users to how to deal with their business through a nice analytical tool, okay, and through our partnership. Wherever we lack, we go and take it through a managed service through our partners. We don't claim that we are knowing everything. Sometimes you need to get out of the box and reach out for the expert to help you out to looking nicer, fitter, and in a very good shape. And in the end, cost and budget is the main concern for any organization. So, for example, I would go to Fahad, a point of hosting premises. For example, we are currently dealing with one of our partners and hosting their DR sites for our benefit. Okay, and we are elaborating more in our contingency plan. Instead of worrying about the day-to-day operation, leave it for the expert, and we run our main core of business, which is airline. Okay, and and if you're concerned about disaster recovery, if you're concerned about maintenance, license, all of this, we are trying to put it in a very nice contractual way through our partners. Okay, this is one. The second thing regarding the skill set. The skill set, we try to acquire the proper training for our colleagues, whether they are fresh recruited Kuwaitis. At the moment, we are focusing in recruiting the locals rather than the expat, and we are aligning ourselves with the overall national strategy to provide positions and jobs for the local as well.
Yes.
Okay. This is one. Second thing, we also go for our partners and see some of them have, for example, disaster recovery outside the region. So if you want to think broadly, you don't stick with the same region and have all your eggs in the same basket. Okay, so for example, we deal with partners having disaster recovery site in Europe, in in India, for example, outside of this region. Okay, just in case something, for God's sake, happens in the region, we are at least at a secured area and ensuring the business business continuity.
Yes, and Kuwait Airways has certainly proved that model of positive results in collaborations and reaching out to outside regional and international partners as well. I'd like to take the idea of network, please, to Bilal. You've mentioned, we've heard in this panel a lot on the availability or necessity of an advanced network infrastructure and how important it is to set up an operation in any country. So from your B2B experience and perspective, how important is the role of telecoms in attracting more businesses to establish their headquarters in Kuwait? And would you say there are specific services maybe that should be offered to make Kuwait a more appealing headquarters location for companies?
As my colleague Fahad has mentioned, I mean, the network, we are the experts in network. We are running 2 million and more users on our network. So this is our bread and butter, and expanding this to businesses is where we are really focusing on. So the first thing we started looking at, once we have built the building blocks of our communication in country and the data centers and made this available for our B2B customers, we had to go outside of Kuwait and start working with our global cloud providers and doing some cloud peering with the companies such as AWS, Amazon, Microsoft Azure, and Google. Because we believe that all customers are thinking in a hybrid mode, whereby they will put their mission critical services and application in country, and they will offload some of them to the clouds. And therefore, we need to support the strategy moving forward to be able to help them in their transition between a high cost and a low cost and manage their cost and budget, as Mr. Abdelmanan mentioned also, because this is a very critical aspect of all the transformation that is taking place. So we're also working with Global Internet Exchange, and we've announced our partnership with the Bahrain Global Zone, whereby we have the Amazon data center that's the first established in the region, to be able to provide our customers access to these facilities and these resources in the fastest and the quickest approach. So this also helping us to enhance our services globally. And that way, by that, we're offering the ability for customers globally and or regionally to establish their head offices in Kuwait. And of course, helping our customers in Kuwait to expand outside of Kuwait, such as Al Shaya and other big conglomerates that are expanding or already in the region. And they are establishing or redeveloping their strategies as we speak. So all of this is coming together to help and expand our services and provide the Kuwait a cradle for the headquarters for many companies via all these services that are providing them with the infrastructure to be able to expand and to move forward with their strategy. We're also working with our regulatory team, TRA, CITRA, also because they play a major role in offering these services and opening up the Kuwait market for new services that requires regulatory to be involved in it. So we are very closely working with them to be able to enhance our services and make Kuwait a better place for running the businesses locally, regionally, and internationally.
Okay, so if I take Rashid, we hear a lot. We heard a lot today from our experts about the need to, reach out for new partners, new services, adapt or adopt new technology tools. On the other side, we also hear a lot of concern about privacy, data privacy, when it comes to using cloud or blockchain, etc., or artificial intelligence. How do you think governments specifically and businesses should ensure data privacy and cyber resilience, basically, in light of all the problems and challenges we are hearing when it comes to big data?
Definitely, data privacy and cyber resilience are main topics in all organizations. Actually, there is no exception. Either it's government or telcos, banking, and so on. So it's very important point to look into those aspects. So I look at it from, of course, new technologies. There is no doubt about that. They're here to stay. They're here, and we cannot avoid them. Either and artificial intelligence, IoTs, and so on. They're here to stay, so we have to deal with them. So I look at it from two different angles. One is regulation. And the good example about that is the GDPR, General Data Protection, that was implemented in Europe back in 2018, that protects actually the data in and out of all European citizens and residents. And of course, like chasing the big GAFAs like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, and so on, about this data privacy that we have. So we have there, from a regulation standpoint, a good framework to get inspired by. On the other side, of course, technology, like there is a tug of war like between defenders and attackers. Attackers are always coming with new ways of doing, and of course, especially since the start of the pandemic, if you look on the news, maybe 4,000. I look into the statistic, 4,000% of attacks has been increased during the pandemic. So, of course, there is a lot of job in this domain to be done. But of course, you will be scared sometimes that cyber attackers are using artificial intelligence to build autonomous systems that will actually attack by themselves, independently, make decisions, and so on. So at the end, you need, on the other side, the defenders to build counter these AI-based solutions. And maybe the human being will be just watching the process at the end. So we're ended in this war of sophistication between attackers and actually defenders. When you look on blockchain, actually, of course, it started a very tiny market with these cryptocurrencies and so on, but quickly it moved to the business, and we see it implemented in many domains, energy, agriculture, and all details and so on. You have a lot of use cases there, but the system actually is built by security itself. So it regulates itself. It's a distributed general ledger that is immutable, reliable, and secure. So by the time, of course, even with that, we see a lot of hacks in the cryptocurrencies, and we see numbers like $1 billion every year installed from these exchanges and so on. But still, you need to be careful about these technologies. So two sides in a nutshell. One is regulation from data privacy, and the other one definitely is related to technology that you need advanced systems in order to protect the data.
Let me take this point, please, to Wasim. So we're going to stay on big data. We all heard about its value and how it helps businesses and public sector as well, but it also requires large storage facilities. How has the update from your view of big data analytics and cloud computing been in Kuwait? And I would like to squeeze in an additional question. Being a regional player, how does GBM support its client in Kuwait to bring all the right technology at the right time for their goals?
As we, just Abdelmenem mentioned about his, data warehouse, where he has the big data, where they basically can identify, the customer behavior. And we always say, how you can keep the customers attached to, the organization and be very close to the organization. So one factor which is very important is the emotional factor. So how can you basically, emotionally affect your customers, to keep him, always attached with you? So, for example, in the airlines industry, if somebody is going to do a reservation, they know basically his behavior, where does he likes to go, which places he wants to stay, the oasis, etc., etc. So there are many information that comes out of the data that they gathered, and which basically, connects the customer with his, service provider. Therefore, you see, if the customers today, see that the provider knows what he prefers, that's the
It
best
creates a loyalty in a way.
exactly, and that's one example that we have basically in the aviation industry. Also, if you go back to the service provider, they have a huge ton of data, right? Because the service providers is the largest, I would say, organization where they have a huge amount of data, and those basically it shows the customer, always the behavior of the customer, in terms of the how many hours that he used the phone, the internet, et cetera, et cetera. So today, when they have those information and they provide the services to the client by giving them, extra bonuses towards what is, if he's utilizing, the mobile or the internet for a longer period. So those are the type of informations that, you use out of the data, the big data that you have. So you see the customer behavior, and that brings us basically again to the customer experience. And then, of course, with this amount of data, it requires at the back end, a robust, resilient, high available system that run 24/7, 365. And then, well, therefore, the storage is one part of the technology that basically store the data, and not only store the data, but also store data encrypted. So it adds a layer of security also to the data as it is being stored. So that's part of the technology that we have on the storage specifically, where we have data being encrypted as it is being written to the whether it is a flash or whether it is a physical disk. So that part is very important. Also, the other part of the processing of the data, because when we talk about big data and there is a huge amount of process required, to bring up the information at the right time, at the right speed, to present it to the customer. So those are the things that really technology helps, in all the aspect of the big data, starting from if today you have analytic, or you have AI, or you have IoT, or you have whatever, a technology that you are providing as an infrastructure, you would require interfaces, you would require a processing power, you would require a high resilient storages, that can sustain and maintain the operations of, the organization for a longer time.
Perfect.
And I just want to, yes, sorry, Jesse, I just want to touch base on, at the beginning you said about the jobs, and then you see all the organizations today that are working together in what we call collaborative approach, and sometimes they are competing fine, but the point is, you see, all the organizations are working in a way or another in collaborative approach in order basically to achieve, the 2035 objective of state of Kuwait, where we have, we need to develop the skills of the citizen, where we need basically to open the industries to new, innovations, where we basically, we need the financial to be able to expand further. So all these, organizations, in a way, they work together and they take part of this market, and they help in achieving those goals. And when we go to the skills, you will see there are a lot of opportunity now required, and that reflects the jobs as well in the area of transformation. So we need people today to work with data science. We need people that, they do analytics, and people who understand basically infrastructures and networking, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of opportunities that comes with, for the jobs with this transformation.
We were discussing earlier the big data, and now all companies, businesses, and customers basically want bigger, better, faster services. So with that comes the need for you to provide obviously 5G, which everybody is now debating on the positive side as well as the challenges. I'd like to hear from you as an STC about the opportunities as well as the challenges, according to you, that may arise with the wider adoption of 5G.
5G, no doubt, will provide higher speeds, will provide better latencies, and bigger number of connections. And what we heard all together today from even my colleagues, the demand for data is becoming so huge. The sensitivity of the time when the information will deliver, how secure, cyberly secure the information is, definitely will bring a great value for 5G. And that's why in STC we focused and we made sure that we provide the 5G nationwide coverage so we can enable and support all different businesses in Kuwait. The amount of sensors, the amount of data, the amount of, as my colleagues mentioned, the data analytics, all of that will require high speeds. And when it comes to challenges, frankly speaking, our government, especially represented by CITRA, our regulatory body in Kuwait, they were very supportive when it came to licensing the 5G. And the spectrum were given to us right on time. We are getting ready for the launch of a new even phones in the market supporting the 5G, which we think and we believe in it will even accelerate more and more of data transmitted and collected. So yes, we position 5G as a very important component when it comes to connectivity. We started to launch, or actually we launched a new fixed wireless FWA services over 5G, where we provide for our end customers, name it in the B2B or B2C as consumer or as enterprises, a full solution to give them a full 5G connectivity. And we complement, of course, and we provide further digital services that I mentioned earlier.
Perfect. I'm sure Bilal, you have something to add about 5G and how are different initiatives of telecoms coming together to support Vision 2035?
Yes, of course. I mean, Fahad has mentioned, we in Kuwait, we have all launched our 5G services from 2019. We were far front in the region. And 5G is a very exciting technology. I will not go on the technical, I will go to the commercial aspect. The use cases that will evolve and come out from 5G are so many. Some of them on the short term and some of them on the long term. And all of this will create new opportunity and new services, whether for the aviation, for the healthcare, for the robotics, being able to use these services and using 5G to offer these services and help them in the latency and the high speed internet. But there were challenges, and I would like to touch on the challenge from a commercial aspect.
Yes,
the challenges were basically how to justify the investment of 5G because the uptake was very slow at the beginning. And what happens with COVID, it really created a huge demand. As you mentioned at the beginning, all students now are at home trying to interact with their teachers, and that required more data consumption. And instead of having 1 or 2 devices at home connected simultaneously, now we have 5 and 6 and 8 devices connected. And we've seen a big boom of 5G demand in the COVID period. And really the justification for this high speed, big bandwidth is justifiable with what happened in COVID. So we're building on this momentum to be able to continually create a better ROI and invest more and more in 5G. But on the B2B side, this is what it is the most exciting time for B2B. What I mentioned, the use cases, this is what we're trying to build the cradle for these type of services and to help our customers to use 5G for their own benefit and for their own services. You know, edge computing now, there's a lot of discussion about edge computing in the region. In Europe and US, they have started applied use cases on edge computing, but this is a very, very interesting era for edge computing and helping the use cases to become reality. For example, autonomous vehicles, healthcare from remote areas, and all of this. And what comes afterward is what we are trying to push also, the network slicing. And what is network slicing is the ability to provide a private network on top of 5G for our customers. And there's a demand for this from long time ago, but was very expensive. oil sector would like to have their own data network, and they had the intention to build their own network. And basically, the network slicing will help the oil sector and the government to run a network on top of 5G with all the privacy required for them, to be able to put all the sensors and the IoT within, whether it's in the oil fields or in the streets for the government, and be able to have all this information in a private way. So this is really what we are trying to push and to basically support and help our customers to build these use cases and eventually becomes a commercial services for the customers.
Great. I'd like to go back to Abdul Mun'im. If you allow me, I'm really a bit fascinated at how some airline companies specifically are attempting to reinvent themselves, to reinvent sometimes a whole identity and the branding and the way they market and reach out to customers due to the unfathomable challenges they are facing and the restrictions in traveling and transportation. How has big data helped you maybe in Kuwait Airways personalize the experience of traveling to your customers? And do you think this personalization has led to increased sales?
Definitely. First of all, that we every airline reports or get data from regional entities. For example, we have the traffic, passenger traffic through IATA. Since IATA gathers all the airline and the traffic between every sector from east to west. So we gather the data and look at where we stand in terms of pricing. First of all, you have to understand in some areas, passengers look at comfort. Rather, in other areas, passenger looks at price as a main factor. Okay, and in other regions, for example, that we look at how much the traffic is. Is it seasonal or is it around the year? For example, flying from the Indian subcontinent to Europe and to Canada and the States is around the year. So you can't really pick certain season where you put offers. So you have to treat them in a different way than, for example, flying from Kuwait to any Middle Eastern country, for example, to Cairo. There are certain holidays and seasons, especially summer season, winter season, school vacation. So you have to go forward to every area with a different style and with a different model. You can't keep the same model because every passenger has his own behavior and his own anticipation and his own budget as well. So when you gather all the information and the flow of the passenger from every region, even you can look at your competitors' numbers. Those numbers are announced, are not secrets, but you have to play it smartly and put your position or your pricing model in a way to temptate your those who are flying with others to come and try you for the first time, enjoy the flight and their trip and experience, then they would definitely come back again. So you make yourself as a choice. You might be a first choice for certain group of passengers, and you might be second choice for other group of passengers. And not only this, even we review our frequency. Time. Do I fly in the morning or do I fly in the evening? My competitor is reaching to that country or to that destination, let's say 5 a.m. or in some areas, in some countries, reaching, for example, if you fly to Alexandria in Egypt, if you reach at 5 a.m., it is not comfortable to the passengers, as the airport is quite remote. But if you reach at 7 a.m., then it will be a better option. And sometimes if you are flying from Kuwait to Europe, there's some business passengers, they want to reach there in the morning to go to their business and then not to reach middle of the day where they lose 1 day. So even the frequency and comparing yourself and your schedule, flight schedule, and your prices and the package you give to others gives you the area and the potential to penetrate this sector and this segment. Okay, and all of this you can run it through the analytical tool based
Yes, of course,
on
this is all, you definitely can say that you've gone out of your way to try and assist and help and make the service as easy from the time of booking until execution.
Yes.
As we come to the almost conclusion of this session, I'd like to briefly, I will conclude with the idea of this integration with Rashid, if you don't mind. We didn't talk a lot about the existing infrastructure, whether in Kuwait or any government. It's one of the maybe biggest and costliest steps in digital transformation. In your opinion, how should governments basically update the existing infrastructure? And briefly, if you can, talk to us about this private and public sector cooperation. What should the governments think of when they are considering or maybe encouraging cooperation between sectors?
Definitely, when we talk about legacy systems, we need to emphasize what are legacy systems. Actually, they are information systems that are based on maybe outdated technologies, but are critical on a day-to-day business. This is what we call actually legacy systems. And of course, like a lot of organizations and maybe mainly governments that started their computerization journey back in the 70s and 80s, they may have these outdated technologies. And not only that, maybe the resources are not available to support those legacy systems. So definitely when it comes, when I spoke in the first question about the plan of digital transformation, maybe one of these buckets or initiative is to modernize this legacy systems. And of course, it's not an easy journey and needs a collaboration, as you mentioned, with the private organization, like vendors, in order to get the newest technologies and the newest way of doing things and so on. But I can summarize it in different ways that you can do this modernization or this uplifting the legacy systems. Of course, from the least where you have less risk to the highest risk. Of course, there are ways of doing it totally, which brings a high risk to the organization and of course need to be looked at carefully. The first thing is to redesign the legacy for efficiency. Like you have the legacy that works, and why touching it? It works, and just put some ways of automating things from efficiency. If you would like to enhance the customer journey, maybe you put APIs and you face it off and you create a new nice journey with different channels like mobile and web services and others and so on. And this actually keeping the core existing because you don't want to touch something that works for decades. Mm-hmm. The second approach, we call it the duct tape approach, like infusing some technology. Duct tape approach is a name used in this phase, and you would like to infuse a little technology, new technology, like containers, microservices, maybe bringing some of the services to the cloud. Why not? And this actually will touch some processes, maybe reporting, some intelligence reporting for analytics and so on. And this, of course, has less risk in moving on. You move on and you would like to replace everything and you would like to break it into components. We call this phase a gradual replacement. If you would like to replace the system, you cannot do it in a big bang approach. You need to do it in iterative approach. And you would like to select which are the components that are actually the ones that you will start that bring value into the customer at the end or bring efficiency. And you would like to replace one component after another until you replace everything. And of course, there is one last approach is total transformation. You phase out the full of technology, the old technology, and replace it with the new technology. Of course, there are companies out there documented in the literature and so on that says there are companies that moved completely and revamped and transformed completely, either by bringing a package, if a package actually fulfills the business needs of the organization, or either replacing it by building a new applications and new systems with the newest technology, the latest technology that are based off the latest technology, containerization, and going to the cloud and so on. This, of course, gives possibility of there are no organization alike. So each organization will try to find their way to this modernization of legacy systems.
Yes, of course, depending on the goals and the stages that you have set place. Wasim, I'd like to conclude with you, please, on this idea of collaboration at GBM being sort of an integrator. How do you see the collaboration, briefly, please, with the government, speeding up the digital transformation to achieve 2035 in Kuwait?
So just to continue from where Rashid basically have stopped, we have a lot as a system integrator. We had a lot of activities and success stories that happen in the organization. And I take, for example, today, multiple ministries where each individual ministry has a specific process connected to the other ministry in order to complete a complete, let's say, for example, a residency renewal for the expats, or driving license renewal, or even some certificates that required for their eligibility for indemnity, etc. So this puts at the back end, the challenges that just mentioned, Rashid, is basic technology is probably old, and then you need to integrate and you need to create an API, and basically the first step is you need to unify the processes among those couple of ministries, starting from Ministry of Interior, for example, to Public Authority for Civil Information, for Ministry of Health. And so each of these ministries has different processes where at the first step, we needed to integrate those processes and build one complete process. And then the second challenge that we had basically is how to connect those systems, because each organization has different environment, different legacy systems, and different applications written in different languages. So again, that part of integrations, because of the technology today available with the API that we have, through IBM, and we call middleware, well, it integrates all the, the data between the organization, and therefore the processes also can be integrated. We were able to successfully launch that, and today citizens, they can basically renew their, I would say, residency, and it is all integrated into one civil ID, where they have all the information on the civil ID itself. So you see that part of integration took place among many ministries, and all the data is being fed to one location, which is on the civil ID. And it's also updated to all the existing system with all ministries. So again, integration is a journey, it's a transformation. And I said, this is basically exactly what happened in the business model. We have changed, the government have changed the business model, how citizen will basically, do the service. That's a business model, But that's integration. It's how it helps, basically, whether in terms of technology, infrastructure, or data, or application, etc. But that's basically, in a nutshell, success stories. Many of these success stories, and what the government did, basically, they did the saving there, because remember, when you unify the processes, when you do the integration, there is a lot of saving that is being done in the government, especially now with the challenges of the oil prices dropping, etc., etc. And there's saving that they have done, again, they're being utilized and used in a different area of transformation. It's a journey. We had a lot of success stories, whether it is in the oil industry, in the retail sector, or even in, in the telco part, or even in the, I would say, banking and finance sector.
It certainly is a journey, an exciting and challenging one. Today we heard from our panelists about this digital transformation that is undergoing in Kuwait, while its businesses, its public sectors and private sector attempts to achieve the bold goals set forth in Kuwait Vision, basically 2035. This brings us to the end of this session, the second session hosted by Forbes Middle East in partnership with GBM. I'd like to thank our panelists from STC Kuwait, Ooredoo Kuwait, from Kuwait Airways, from the Public Institute of Social Security, and of course GBM Kuwait. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you on future sessions from Forbes Middle East. Thank you so much.